Hi, today I am doing a review of buyer-supplier relationships derive value over 2 decades. In this article, it was a synopsis of 151 publications in the past that discussed buyer-supplier relationships. It broke into key points and discussed, I guess, the theme around the articles of publications for that period of time. It described methods of value, extraction of value, and there were 4 key methods in these 4 periods. So the first one was operational performance improvements, then there was integration-based improvements, then capability-based improvements, and financial improvements. From 1986 to 1991, which was the longest period, it was 5 years, they were able to find 17 articles about buyer-supplier relationships, and those articles mostly focused on mutual efforts of communication between the buyer and the seller about their processes and about what their needs were. The next period was 1992 to 1995, and though it was only 3 years, the amount of articles almost doubled from 17 to 28. And then these articles focused on advancing the topic of communication. So whereas the first one was more about the just-in-time implementation, power dependency, supplier evaluations, the second time period advanced that communication to encourage improved communication and cooperation between the buyer and supplier in order to improve operational performance. In the third time period, 1996 to 2000, it was only 4 years, but the amount of articles increased to 39. And these articles more focused on the actual factors that were believed to be involved in those successful relationships, so kind of outlining for others what had worked for these organizations. And then in the last group of articles, which was 2001 to 2005, there were 67 articles in that 4-year period, and those focused mostly on the financial impact, so really kind of giving the credence for why this cooperation was important. The progression of these articles shows the progression of the buyer-supplier relationship. It starts off with the focus on the need to stay abreast of the things going on, and then evolves to a more hands-on approach, and then finally gives the support of the financial impact of continuing this open relationship. It's understandable that this became more apparent because in the 1980s is when the TQM standards came out, and during the 90s is when they began to discuss the financial impact they could have, the positive financial impact to the bottom line, which gave a lot more attention to the type of buyer-supplier relationship that should be there and how to make it successful. The progression also shows that buyers have become, or the buying-supplying relationship has become more complex, as buyers are more likely to assist the suppliers in performance, but they also do expect a lot more from their suppliers. As far as a relationship to this chapter, I felt like there was kind of a loose relationship. It does show the progression of the buyer-supplier relationships, but I felt that it was kind of to be expected, if you will. It does also show how the buyer-supplier relationship has become less of a product to supplier and more of a business partner. As far as my opinion of the article, it was not one of my favorite. I felt like it was very lengthy, it had a lot of information, but it all just gave an overview of the change in focus of the buyer-supplier relationship. And I just felt like that was to be expected because our society has changed to become less of a industrial-driven society to more of a desire, technology-based, and with that is going to require more from a supplier. Plus, we speak about as you progress with a supplier, that since they're already always continuously trying to improve, the bar of just producing a product with minimal defective capabilities or just producing it isn't good enough anymore. You've got to improve, you've got to make advances, and you've got to be able to increase capabilities. So overall, okay article, had good information, but felt like just an overview of the buyer-supplier relationship history. Thank you.